and the Republicans, Jim Vandehei, are trying to run Liz Cheney out of town. Now, it's very funny. I keep seeing these liberals writing op-eds going, well, we don't like you, Liz Cheney. What you're doing is a good thing, but we don't like you. The Cheneys don't give a damn whether liberals like them or not. They don't. You don't call Dick Cheney, her father, a war criminal for like 2 decades, and then worry about whether Liz Cheney's liking you or not. She doesn't. Nope. Liz is doing this because this is what Liz believes. And I'd say it's a turning point for the GOP, but there have been about 87 turning points for the GOP, Jim.
The sad thing is it's not.
They just keep turning that golf cart in towards Donald Trump. Nobody's ever jerked it the other way. And I just wonder if they're not playing right into Liz Cheney's hands ultimately by making her actually the alternative that people like me and suburban voters in Atlanta and suburban voters in Maricopa County don't look at somebody like Liz Cheney and say, oh, okay, well, there's somebody who believes in small government. There's somebody that believes in traditional foreign policy. Yeah, sounds okay to me.
I just disagree with her that it's a turning point. The party turned. The only thing we're looking for now is the party turned over the last 4 years into the party of Trump. So then after he loses, what we're looking for is indicators of, okay, was that kind of a one-off and the party's going to reinvent itself around a set of policies, or is it going to become even more the party of Trump? And there were some signs early on that there was an authentic debate about that. Liz Cheney's a party of a few. They're just, when you look at elected Republicans, there's very few of her. So then you have to think, what's going to happen over the next 2 to 4 years? You're going to have House races. You're going to have Senate races. What type of candidates do they nominate? Do they nominate people who look and sound like Liz Cheney, or do they nominate people who sound like Donald Trump? Every indication is it's going to be a lot more Trump people. So by the time she might decide that she wants to run in 2028, you're going to have an entire elected class, an entire elected infrastructure of the Republican Party that is Trumpian. And so a lot of the things that she talks about, well, might sound sane to a lot of Republicans and sound way saner to every single Democrat. It doesn't to the people who are getting elected. The party infrastructure is Donald Trump. It's more Trumpian, I'd argue, today than it was on January 6th. Look at all these the profiles and courage of the 10 members that voted for impeachment. What have they said since then? Almost none of them, nothing. Why? Because they know the price that they have to pay. And by the way, Liz Cheney's going to pay that price next week. She will probably be booted from House leadership after winning a House leadership election merely like weeks ago. And that's how quickly things are changing. And so now you have this de facto leader of the Republican Party who doesn't have Facebook, doesn't have Twitter, has a blog. It's called From the Desk of Donald J. Trump. And he sits there and he shoots spitballs at Liz Cheney and Mitch McConnell. And the party responds favorably to that and sides with him, not Liz Cheney.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, we got to ask about Aaron Rodgers. What's going on there? Are you going to lose a quarterback?
We're going to we'll go from narcissist to narcissist. Yes, we're going to lose somebody. Like he's like torturing, he's sabotaging our entire organization and leaking out that he doesn't like anything about it. It's a travesty. The guy's got the best damn team in football. He would probably guarantee himself to be in the NFL championship and maybe the Super Bowl if he could perform in clutch moments. And now he's going to end up playing for the Raiders.
Boy, it's getting rough at Lambeau Field from narcissist to narcissist.
That's a hell of a pivot, Joe.
Thank you.
I know.
Well, apparently, Jim, there was a through line from Donald Trump to Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure he'll be pleased to learn that. So Willie, again, it doesn't make sense when you're talking about Republican politics, but it is so important to remember that we are talking about Republican primaries. A lot of people talking about what happened in Texas. Well, yeah, that was a Republican primary where the guy that was very conservative, the former Marine, the guy that spoke out, he said, hey, we need to move beyond Donald Trump. He was running in a Texas Republican primary. I don't know if they expected people to come up and hand him daisies and vote for him, but it's probably not going to happen deep in the heart of Texas. But if you're making the calculation that Liz Cheney's making, she's saying, well, okay, well, maybe 25% of Republicans agree with me. Maybe by the time 2024 comes along, Donald Trump's been charged by, New York prosecutors. Maybe that number's a little higher, and so maybe by then it's 35% of the people want to move past. And so you've got a presidential field that has Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and you name it, Nikki Haley, 10 other people pledging fealty to Donald Trump. And then you've got one anti-Trump candidate, one pro-conservative anti-Trump candidate. And if you're gaming things out, that's not a really bad place for Liz Cheney to be in 2024.
Yeah, if that's something she wants, if she's setting herself up to run for something. Also, of course, the big specter hanging over all this is, will Donald Trump be in that race and wipe everybody else out? We'll